Hello, welcome to the 39th episode of ICC Biz Live. Today we have today we have with us the head of CSR of the entire RPSG group, Dr. Neepa Sharma. Ma'am, welcome to the show. We uh, we request you to give a brief introduction of yourself and the kind of work you are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, and thank you, ICC, for having me today. Uh, I am Neepa Saha Sharma, and in my current role, I look after the CSR initiatives of CESC and its subsidiary companies. Uh, I've been in the sector for the past 24 years, both in the CSR space as well as in the development sector. So, thank you for having me.
Now, my first question to you is how do you make CSR go beyond mere compliance with the legal mandates? Even non-compliance was a punishable offense. Nowadays, it is no longer. But you have gone beyond statutory compliance. What made you do so? What made you we had heard about people, planet, and profit. How the people who occupy your center is your focus. Not only people in your corporate, but beyond corporate. So please do elaborate us.
Right. So before I answer your question, Dr. Ghosh, let me start with a simple thought. Every company operates with a social license. Uh, the license is not written in law, but granted by society. Now the question is, are we honoring the license or just complying with it? Because CSR today stands at crossroads. On one side, it is compliance, reporting, and percentages, and on the other, it is transformation, impact, and nation building. And what we choose will define not just companies, but the future of development itself. So, coming to your question, let's go a little deeper. CSR for many organizations is still just a line item, it's just 2% of profits. But responsibility, so to speak, cannot be reduced to a percentage. If responsibility is forced, it remains limited rather. And true CSR begins only when compliance ends. It is about asking what is our role in society, what problem can we solve using our strengths, and how do we create value beyond shareholders. So CSR is not charity. Charity is something which is episodic. CSR is something more meaningful. CSR is strategic. So for us, I believe in this that profit gives us the ability to do CSR, but it is purpose which gives us the reason to exist.
Give some examples of value creation. I would like to say I do work with the corporate in their CSR activity where they give scholarships to needy students identified by one NGO. So give some examples of value creation which you do.
Yeah. So, we have been working with in various sectors like healthcare, education, environment, skill development. So wherever we are working, it's our vision is very clear. We have very long-term vision. We want to create or rather empower the community to upgrade themselves. So when we are when we are giving skill training to underprivileged youths, we are actually equipping them with the right equipment or the right skills to earn a dignified livelihood. For example, if you are working in the sphere of sustainable agriculture, again, we are empowering or equipping farmers to increase the productivity, to decrease their input cost, and also to have long-term sustainability in terms of their farm activities. So we have other projects also. We do women empowerment, we do education where we are working on competence-based learning. So there are entire set of things that we are working on, and everything is focused on creating long-term value for the beneficiaries.
Is CSR part of your core business strategy or a parallel activity?
CSR has to be part of the core business strategy. For us, uh, it is. I mean, we have a CSR policy which defines the areas where we are going to kind of intervene, where we are going to implement projects, and so it is the policy dictates the kind of work that we do, and it is very much aligned to our business activities because we generally undertake CSR in our operational areas, in our license areas. So we have CSR activities around our generating stations, around our power plants, and also in our distribution areas.
Work in skill development of an agro worker. You also help in improving his output and his earnings, right? So
Sorry,
same.
can you repeat?
We talked about agriculture. If you are upskilling an agro worker, would you be able to help increase his output and earnings?
Absolutely, because we have been working on a project in Chandrapur, in Dhariwal Infrastructure Limited, which is a subsidiary company of CSC that's in Maharashtra. So there we have been working. Last year we introduced this project. We initiated this project, and we've been working with 120 odd farmers, and we are working on a sustainable project where we are, giving them the right. We are training them. On sustainable agriculture practices. Then what happens is the input cost, the cost of chemical fertilizers and other pesticides, all that go down, and the per acre productivity has actually gone up, and we have evidence for that, and how their income has gone up and the input cost has gone down.
If you consider an industrial worker, do you help that worker to get job or to be self-employed in skill development area?
See, we do both. We have various domains. We have domains like basic computer, we have retail, we have customer relations management, we have tailoring, we have beautician, we also have electrician course, hospitality. So there are various domains. It depends on the aspiration of the particular youth, what is his or her aspiration, and what kind of opportunities are available in the vicinity. So there, the domains like, say, for example, tailoring or beautician, there are more chances of self-employment in the beginning, and then people can get into employment because employment also in the initial stages, it's apprenticeship more or less. It's not a very highly paid job, but there are domains like retail or customer relations management, computer, where people are getting highly paid jobs. I mean, there it's job. So it depends on the domain, the aspiration, and the inclination of the particular person who's getting skilled.
Identify the needy. Do you take the help of an NGO?
All our projects are actually implemented through NGOs, which have expertise in the specific domains. So we have need assessment for all our projects. There is a baseline for all the projects that we do. So definitely everything is based on hard facts, whatever we undertake.
Okay, how do you, two questions. One is, how do you measure how effective has your CSR projects been? How do you measure? That is number one. And what differentiates you from other corporate groups? I think it is the vision of your top management. I don't see every corporate doing so much CSR activity.
Yeah. So for us, we take, thank you for the question. And And this is one of the biggest gaps in CSR today, and measurement is one of the differentiators that differentiate us from many other corporates, I would say. So, for example, most of us, we measure the effort rather than the impact. So, and most of us say that we have spent, say, 50 crores, 100 crores, but is spending an impact? It's not an impact. The real impact is, whether the work that we are doing, that is creating impact on the intended beneficiaries. For example, if we are doing an education program or an education project, we need to understand whether our intervention has helped a child complete his or her education, whether the child is learning better in a better environment, in a more conducive environment. But if we are training a youth, we need to understand if the youth has got a job after our training program ends, because most of the time, corporates just report on how many youths trained, but it's also about how many youths who have got jobs through us and how many of them have actually been retained in those jobs, because you give jobs and they leave 1 month or 2 months down the line. So we also kind of track uh, for 6 months at least that how many youths have actually continuing in their job. We also see whether if it's a sustainable agriculture program, which I've talked about. We also see if the farmers' income has gone up. If a community program that we are looking at, we have to understand, we have to measure if the community has become self-reliant. So measurement is something which is very important, and we have long ago moved away from the input-output measure to outcome and impact level. So activities, conducting CSR projects on activity mode is very easy, and it is more visible. It gives us more visibility. But actually pursuing outcome and impact is more meaningful. And at CSC, we strongly believe in meaning rather than visibility.
How do you measure the goodwill generated? I mean, is it at all measurable?
Yes, absolutely. It is absolutely measurable because we have baseline and endline surveys for all our projects. So at the beginning of the project, we do a baseline to understand the status before the intervention. And after a year, we do an endline to understand the status after the intervention. So this is absolutely a qualitative measure. There are also various things which cannot be measured qualitative. There are certain qualitative indicators. For example, how can you measure things like dignity, improvement in dignity or increase in confidence. But these things can also be measured by applying various techniques like focus group discussions, like audits. So these can also be measured and also be quantified. We also employ a important tool called social return on investment. So this is a very powerful concept, and it asks a simple question that for every rupee one invested, what is the social value which is created? Because we can have very flowery stories and case studies written, but we also need to have some evidence-backed impact. So this is how we measure our impact.
Return on investment, very useful concept. Now, my question is: suppose beginning of a year, you are given X amount of money as budget, and say 3 4 areas to work in. What governance, what management structure you follow? What governance structure you follow? You choose NGOs and you give the money to them, or what? You have your team, and you assign team A to this project, team B to that project. How do this explain to us in a simple way?
Yeah. So as we discussed a bit earlier, that we have this need assessment. So wherever we are working in all our operational areas, we have this need assessment exercise where we interact with the stakeholders, with the beneficiaries to understand the kind of development issues that they are facing, or where we can have some impact on their lives. And this is something which comes from the grassroots. It's bottom up. It's not top down. So our business units in all these places, I mean, we get feedback from them based on their interactions with the stakeholders and also CSR teams interactions with the stakeholders. So based on that, we prepare a design, and it also has to be in alignment with the CSR policy that we have, the CSR policy of the company. So there are few focus areas in the policy, and the needs, when they're aligned with the policy, that's how we arrive at the various interventions that we are going to undertake over a period, over a year.
Do you include these activities in your annual report?
Yes, absolutely.
What is your CSR policy, if I may know, or viewers may know?
The CSR policy is a public document and we are a listed company. It is available on our website. Like most of the companies, I mean, we have a policy that there is a committee at the board level. It is a mandate that every company has to do at the board level, which oversees CSR initiatives. And we have certain areas in accordance with Schedule 7 of the Companies Act 2013. So those, as per those areas, we will undertake CSR initiatives, and these initiatives will be monitored by the committee, by the board level committee, and it has to be reported periodically to the committee as well to ensure that the interventions are carried out in accordance with the company's policy.
Can you explain a bit more on social return on investment? What model you follow? Do you follow any model?
There is, I mean, model. There are no models, but we have. There is a framework which is a common framework, but the calculations will differ on the basis of the domain in which we are working. So, for example, an education framework, I mean the calculation would differ from a health calculation. So, but the general framework is the same. That if I am investing, say, on training of say youths in a particular project. We have this project called Eklavya CSC Skill Academy where we train underprivileged youths for employment or self-employment. So if I'm training this youth, so every rupee that I'm spending on the project for training the youths, which includes the trainer cost, the infrastructure cost, the every other cost, maybe the equipment, contacting the employers, providing placement support. So there may be 7, 8 line items, through which we provide training to the youths. So how this every rupee, suppose I am investing 20 lakhs in this project, how this 20 lakhs, for every 1 rupee in this 20 lakhs, how much social value it is creating, meaning what is the return? What is, if, for example, if training was provided by somebody else, if the government, for example, so what would have been the cost of it? So there are few assumptions, there are few calculations which we have to keep in mind to arrive at the return on investment. So that every 1 rupee I'm investing in a youth, what return I'm getting? That means that when he is starting to earn, he or she is starting to earn, what is the return that he is giving? So very often we've seen that in a skill development project we get a social return SROI of 7 or 8. So for every 1 rupee spent, we actually get a return of 7 or 8 rupees.
That is wonderful. In a recent ceremony, you won first prize for your CSR activities. I mean, what made you be the winner? What differentiates you from other corporates?
Yeah.
Or
So we had applied for this environment and sustainability category award, and we are thankful to ICC for recognizing our work. the competition was very tough. So we have started this project called Aprajita in North Damdam municipality, and in collaboration with North Damdam municipality, and Sini is our implementing partner. So what we are doing is we are following a model of recycling flower waste into innovative products such as floral dust, biofertilizers, biocompost, which is not only it is environmentally sustainable and environment friendly, but it is also generating livelihoods for the SHG members that we have trained in that municipality. And the entire thing is on a PPP model because CSC is providing the financial resources for it, and the municipality has given us the infrastructure. The municipality is taking care of the operational cost, which actually SUDA is funding, and Sini is our implementation partner or a knowledge partner. So, something which actually would have, though the municipality was segregating flower waste separately, but they were not doing anything with it. After collecting it separately, again it was going into the machines for not for recycling, but for compressing waste together. So it was not actually having any impact. So through this project, we have been able to not only take care of the flower waste in a very environment friendly manner, but we've also generated livelihoods for many women in that area.
My question is: do you face any problems in doing these projects? I worked in a project, a big central project called Howrah Growth Pole, and even now when I get feedback from other economists, the biggest problem they face is mindset, changing the mindset of the people that I am here to do good for them. I mean, they look at them with suspicion. I mean, do you face any of these problems, or it is a smooth journey for you?
There are challenges, but the challenges are both internal as well as external, I would say. So whenever we want to do a project like this, you have to convince the leadership why this important project is important. I think that challenge is higher than convincing the community. Of course, when you do, community is always more receptive if you give them a logic, if you give them a reason why we are doing this, and if it is in their interest, there is not it isn't there, it's not much of a challenge. I've seen this in I've worked pan India before joining the CSC, and this is my experience that community is the easiest part. And we don't want to tell them that we are here to solve all your problems. We cannot do that. We are not a problem solver for everything. We are going to help set up systems and empower you by which you can yourself solve your problems. The challenge is more internal because when you really want to do something which is long term, which will not give you, because it's a project like Aprajita, it will not give you immediate results. You have to invest at least 3 to 5 years in that project to see a difference. So immediate visibility is not there. Quick gains, if you say, it won't be there. So it is actually convincing the inside people on how to do. That's the challenge.
What are your shareholder views on this activity? They are comfortable.
They're very happy with the activities. I mean, in every of our AGMs, I mean, they give us very positive feedback on the CSR initiatives that we undertake.
Comes is to ensure effective impact. We need to tie up with some NGO. Is it? I mean, without that, it is that difficult to come down to grassroots level without tying up with an NGO.
Yeah, because see, everywhere the CSR team is a very limited team. It's not that you have a huge CSR team sitting in any of the corporates. I don't think so. Very few corporates would have a huge team. And we don't have the wherewithal to implement projects ourselves. So definitely, we will have to collaborate with NGOs who have the grassroots access as well as the experience and expertise to deal with that project. So without NGO, I don't think it's you know it is actually recommended for a corporate to undertake direct CSR, unless it's like building a doing infrastructure development of a school that we can do directly. For that, we don't need an NGO, or maybe to give something. But distributing something one time is actually not CSR. CSR is something which has to be done on a project mode, where we have a before and after story, where we have to measure, where we have to track. There has to be a baseline survey, endline survey, needs assessment, measurement, the whole bunch of things to be done. And this is something which is not to be done, is not expected to be done by a CSR team unless you have a foundation to do that, where you have created a huge human resource, backup to handle these kinds of projects. Otherwise, we have to depend on NGOs to do these kind of jobs.
So, to sum up, you would say that inclusivity and equity is very much there in your CSR programs.
Of course, I mean, when most of the time, inclusivity is seen as an add-on. Like it is something you've done, and then inclusivity you bring in later on as an add-on. But for us, it is actually a foundation. I mean, every time we design a project or we want to do a project in a certain domain or area, we ask ourselves is who is left behind? Who are the people whom we have not included? Most of the projects that CSC does or its subsidiary companies do, we have women, children, marginalized groups at the center of our project. And if we actually think that we can exclude some categories of people, then that growth will not be sustainable. It is, I mean, for me, I think inclusion is not a punchline. It's not just ethical. It is also economically intelligent.
Well, we are almost nearing the end of the program. I'm opening the floor for any public question. One question has come. Have you seen the question?
No, I cannot see the question. How are the
Well,
impact of CSR expenditures uh,
assist.
assessed? Uh-huh. So, as I said, we have NGOs which are implementing projects for us in various domains, and whatever expenditure, every CSR project has a list of KPIs, key performance indicators, which are quantitative. Apart from that, we also have certain qualitative indicators. So every activity is linked, every input or every activity is linked to an output, a specific output. Those outputs are again linked to specific outcomes. Outcomes may be quantitative or qualitative. So every activity is again linked to an expenditure, to a line item. So everything that we spend is actually can be measured, and their impact can be quantified as the key performance indicators of the project. I hope I answered your question.
No, yes, ma'am. Very well. CSR is. Uh, I only hope we can scale up CSR for all corporates. Only then the dream of Viksit Bharat can really be achieved because unless we pull up the people who need it, we would be among the top largest growth economies, but not a developed economy in a true sense.
Absolutely. I mean, for Viksit Bharat, it's not the government's role alone The government alone cannot ensure that India will be a developed country. It requires participation from various sectors, and I think corporates in the form of CSR can play a catalytic role in this, and we can be the silent force multiplier in this vision of Viksit Bharat. But only if we decide to scale, only if we decide to collaborate and we stay committed. As I earlier said, we should not see ourselves as, we are the problem solvers and we are here to solve problems. We are here to empower people to solve their own problems. We are here to create systems by which people can solve their own problems. Ultimately, then only whatever development, whatever growth that we intend to undertake, that will be sustainable.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We would like to end the program today as of now. And thank you. You are giving a lot back to society. And any further question, if we get, we will forward to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.